Right, if you have any of the Myford lathes, you'll know that you're very restricted on what size shank tool you can actually use with the Quickchange Toolpost. And in my last video I showed that I could actually use a angle grinder disc to grind off the back edge here by about 3mm, so that the Quickchange tool holder will drop down further and allow the use of 12mm shank tools. And that is a good option to actually grind these tool holders off, but it's not the best option. And that's because the tool holder with its ground off back edge here now drops down over the front of the compound slide, and if you're going to do threading or whatever and turn the compound slide at an angle, you obviously need to turn the tool post, and the edge that drops down over the front of the compound slide now catches on the front, so you can't actually turn this round at an angle with this modified tool holder. And I did know this, but I forgot all about it when I did that video, and therefore when I read the comments it was brought to my attention again, and I thought, well, I want to go for the best method of all, which would be to remove 3mm off the top of the cast iron compound slide. And that would in effect allow the actual Quickchange Toolpost to sit 3mm lower on the compound slide, and therefore use the larger shank tools, but also allow for the turning of the actual tool post all the way around. Now, I've always been a bit apprehensive about actually doing a modification like this on the Myford ML7. I do actually like to keep it in its original state. Plus, you'll know that I haven't got a milling machine to undertake such a task. But I was thinking about it the other night, and I thought it would be such a great thing to actually overcome this problem once and for all in every way. And I came up with an idea of actually holding the compound slide on the Myford ML7 safely using an angle plate to hold it nice and square, clocked in, and I knew that I'd be able to actually mill this off safely without any problems at all. So I completely stripped down the compound slide, took out all the screws until it was just the bare casting, cleaned it all up, and I used a aluminium 1/2" square bar or rectangle bar to actually hold it onto the angle plate. Like I say, I clocked it in so that I know that everything is going to be dead parallel. And then I used one of these tools here in my ER40 collet chuck. I got this one from Banggood, and it already had some blue nano inserts in it, which I've used on another job. It doesn't actually come with those blue nano inserts, but that's all I buy for this tool now because they're so good. You don't actually need those really hard inserts for cast iron, but this is a fantastic tool to actually do a job like this. And this is a 3-flute tool, and like I say, it works really well. When I got mine it was longer than this, and I actually cut it down and faced it off so that it would go back far enough in my ER40 collet chuck. You can get another one that uses the same inserts, a 2-flute tool. So now I'll show how I actually machined it on the Myford ML7, and I'll show you how I gradually lowered it down to do all the passes and use a stop so that I get it dead flat. And you'll see that when I lowered it to a certain point, I was holding on the curve of the actual casting here with the aluminium, and I thought, well, that could actually move on the angle plate, and you'll see there that I actually used a stop up against this side here to prevent that happening. And when doing the machining, I didn't say anything at all, and I actually cut the cast iron dry, which is perfectly alright to do, and I used about 10 thou deep cuts at a time. So that's about it. Doing this modification doesn't weaken the structure of the compound slide at all. There's still plenty of thickness of cast iron in every place that is needed. The only other thing that I needed to do was to actually put shorter grub screws in the top here, which actually screw down onto the flange of the toolpost bolt on the inside. You can either shorten the existing ones. I had some shorter ones, I think they're 2BA, and that's just so that the top of them don't come up over the actual compound slide. They must be below the surface, obviously. And they have to be the pointed type of grub screws that screw down into a little indent, and that prevents this toolpost bolt from actually spinning in the compound slide. And I'm really pleased that I've actually done this modification, and the way it's turned out, it looks good, feels good, and I'm really pleased now that I can use the 12mm shank tools and maybe even a little bit bigger. And I'm still very pleased that I actually milled a few of these tool holders off by 3mm, because I often hold small components in the actual tool holder for milling ops, and this makes it much more versatile on the up and down movement for those milling ops.